everyone. I'm Jalena Rubin, and I am a freshman here at UNM. And my instrument is currently piano, although I've done some voice as well. And I'm currently working towards my Bachelor of Music Theory and Composition.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Could you give us some of your major musical influences, both compositionally as well as if you have any particular performers that really inspire you? Anything that has helped you to get to this point?
Well, I actually had a visually impaired piano teacher when I was really little.
Okay.
And she's not a performer, but she kind of helped me navigate the piano, being blind,
Mm-hmm.
because I am visually impaired.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd say, what's his name? The Star Wars guy.
Oh, sure, John Williams.
Yes. That was one of my huge, biggest influences. And I do a lot of classical things. Like I love like the minor going to the major 5. I think that's just like genius.
Sure.
And obviously Beethoven, but I also, being African American, I did listen to some African music and I got some inspiration from there. But, I've also just kind of done a lot of, there are other people who I, know of, but I don't know the top of their names because I just listen to music, and I'm like, ooh, that's cool.
Yeah. Sure.
But yes, I've definitely been influenced by a lot of cultures and a lot of different people. And I also just, kind of figure things out by myself. I remember my mom, when I was starting piano lessons, I was telling her, like, oh, my piano teacher didn't tell me how to play this song. She didn't show me anything. She just gave me the CD, and my mom goes, well, I guess we'll just have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I learned I had perfect pitch,
Mm-hmm.
because I was able to figure out what the pitch of the song was, and then I was able to play it. And my teacher next week was like, how did you learn how to play that? And I was like, well, I don't know. I just did, I guess.
Sure. That's really amazing. I think being able to start your pianistic, or not necessarily start, but be influenced by another pianist without sight must have been extremely helpful. Have you ever had a similar experience in the compositional realm, or has that been more of a figuring it out?
That's been more of a figuring it out. I knew I always loved to mess around with different things, and I did go to a program that was like for Braille music, and there was one professor who was blind there, but he was definitely not a composer.
Right.
But the compositional aspect has just been me figuring out, and I actually figured out I loved composing a lot more than performing,
Mm-hmm.
because you can make mistakes and you'd be like, oh, that's cool, I'm going to write this mistake down.
Sure.
Instead of just thinking of like 1-5-1, most of my compositions are based on Neo-Riemannian operations.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what those are?
Yes.
Yes, so most of my compositions are, like, yes, some of them are, based on 1 and 5 and all those good music theory things, but a lot of them are just based on common tones.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, it's a new sound, but it also still works because, you're keeping that common note.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I think allows me to be able to play with sound,
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that I, have to rely on it and I know, kind of how to manipulate it.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. I think I can definitely hear the triadic nature of your music, but the fact that the functions don't follow in specifically functional progressions, I think is definitely evident as well, and that's it makes it for a very dynamic harmonic world.
Yeah, and I know that, like, I know some theorists are like, you can't do that, you can't have this, and I'm like, well, I understand, but at the same time, I mean, it's if you want to be dynamic and you want to have a different sound but yet still beautiful, you kind of have to, explore a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I like the idea of you, when you're composing, you're more thinking of it more like molding sound instead of thinking of it in the abstract theoretical terms. And I know that you experience synesthesia, where your music or anyone's music can also elicit others' like sensory experiences at the same time. Could you give me an idea of that and how that affects your compositional process?
Yes, definitely. I'm glad you asked about that. So, Since I was pretty little, I always had synesthesia, which is where the senses kind of cross, and I never really knew what it was, and like people didn't really understand it, so I guess I just didn't really say anything about it. But then I realized, like, oh, it's interesting because, like, even though I'm blind, I can see some colors, and I don't know if I was completely blind if this would still happen, but some music has color to it, like a B flat. I don't know, it sounds blue, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
And then, but like different registers and different timbres of B flat are still blue, but they're different shades of blue, like purplish blue or greenish blue, but it's still blue. The other thing that's interesting is that sometimes I can almost taste music. I know that sounds bizarre, but it happens. Like for me, specifically the tritone of C and F sharp. It tastes like peanut butter and avocado. I don't know why. It just does. Yeah, and then like the tritone of G and D flat is like, it's like banana and cheese. I know, it's very strange, and sometimes it actually happens either way. When I'm eating food, sometimes I'll get like musical chords.
Okay.
Like I was eating key lime pie one time, and I started hearing La Campanella. I don't know. Again, I don't know where it comes from, but I just did, and then yeah. Sometimes I actually have compositions inspired by different types of food.
Right.
Yeah, like I was eating a chocolate cake one time, and I was like, you know what? This tastes like, I don't know, I think it was C major or something like that. And I just went from there. But I also do a lot of messing around. Like when I sit down to write music, sometimes I go about it in, I'm here to write music kind of way. But also sometimes I just mess around because sometimes you have to let the sound mold itself.